Yeah, my hair's short again because I had another botched haircut since last video. Anyhow, my last video was about the flat earth, or actually this image from Soundly that shows that the earth is actually curved. Now that video has a lot of attention, which makes sense. It was a bit of a bold video, and within a matter of hours there were flat earthers on the internet responding to it. So, of course, I have to jump up and defend myself and show how my point still stands and the earth is still curved. Now, I don't know how many responses I'll have by the time this is posted, but right now I'm focusing on two videos, one from Jamie and one from Nick, I believe his name is, who I responded to in my last video. Now, it seems like for the most part they're saying the same things, so I'm going to focus on Nick's video, who believes that I am part of a globe cult religion. That's fun. Jamie's a bit more respectable. He expresses that he wants, a genuine dialogue, which, I respect, because that's what I want too. But Nick's more fun. So let's start off with him.
Okay. It really seems insane to have to point this out, but anyone who really believes that this is some kind of proof of curvature must believe that the globe Earth is about the size of France. I mean, that's just so extreme, it's ridiculous.
No, actually, it's not extreme or ridiculous. Now, maybe I should have mentioned this, or maybe you should have watched Soundly's video, but this image is zoomed in.
I mean, we can see for a start here that the horizon, the water is flat. Okay, it's horizontal, as it always is.
Weren't you just complaining about the ridiculous scale of the Earth? Here's the thing, the Earth is so big that the horizon pretty much looks flat whenever you're close to the surface, especially when you zoom in. In order to visibly see the curve, you at least have to be in an airplane flight, and even then it's, really slight.
And one thing to point out here is that we have a very low camera angle. We'll come to that later on.
No, it's not. This was taken on a causeway. Now, I mean, this guy's from Thailand, so, he probably hasn't been to Lake Pontchartrain, but even with his remarkable ability to use common sense, you should know that causeways are raised up above the surface of the water, enough to account for tides and flooding and stuff like that. So Soundly's pictures and videos, of which there are several, are raised up from the surface of the water a decent bit.
But just to jump on this as some kind of proof of curvature is ridiculous. It's just, there are so many other elements going on here that make this curve happen, and it's so extreme that it's just ridiculous to assume that it's anything to do with curvature on the surface, which we can see just isn't there. This is something going on above the surface. It's an optical phenomenon.
Like I said, this is not extreme, this is just more visible the more you zoom in, but do tell me about the optical phenomena that could cause this, because I don't know of any.
Okay, so of course, yes, show me the curve is one of those things often said, and hence anti-flat earthers, globe defenders jumping on this as some kind of proof. Of course, a sphere is supposed to curve in all directions, not only in front of you, and this is why we understand that perspective is the imaginary curve, because this is the only way we can see curvature, or what is perceived as curvature.
No, this is not the only way that we can see the curvature of the Earth, but any footage or pictures taken from high enough up to show a curved horizon, which is more or less what you're asking here, is readily rejected by all flat earthers as part of a grand conspiracy. So this is one of the few ways that we have left to show you the curve, as many flat earthers ask. And if the Earth was a globe, then it would curve away from us in any direction that we look. So this is still proof.
Okay, one thing he's done here is cut out what I continue to say after pointing out that this is a flat, smooth surface taken indoors, and of course the table is an artificial surface, and when we try and make these observations outdoors across rugged surfaces such as water, which is obviously moving and has troughs and waves and things like that, or even a road that is also rugged, they are never completely smooth.
Yeah, I did cut out quite a bit of what he said in his video. I didn't mean to be dishonest, I just had to make the clip shorter for the sake of time, and I thought that these were minor points that he was bringing up, but I guess not. But if you think waves account for what we see in these images, well, you're wrong. Lake Pontchartrain tends to be really calm, no harsh waves or anything, and that makes it pretty flat, much flatter than land tends to be. Not only that, but like I said before, this is taken a good height above the surface of the water, so that would counteract any waves that may be there because we would be above it. Also, the top of the pylons still curve over the horizon, so you still have that to explain. But let's go back to that original video and see just what I cut out, or at least the parts that I think flat earthers are mad at me for cutting out.
Yeah, and if the table was infinite and the row of bottles was infinite, you know that we would just eventually get this blur and distortion, and we wouldn't see the end of it. Yeah, and of course, if we are outdoors, we've got weather, we've got clouds, we've got distortion from temperature differences coming off the surface. We've got haze, dust, what have you. There is a limit to how far we can see physically. Okay, we see that they're all the same height, yeah, on this flat, smooth surface. A man-made surface, which you will not find in nature. Of course, roads and lakes and sea is rugged in its nature, and it's affected by temperature differences, etc. So no, we are not going to see the bottoms of these bottles disappear over this short distance on a very smooth surface indoors. Okay, there are many other factors involved in these observations, but what we're looking at here is perspective and how we should be making scientific observations if we want to prove curvature. Yeah?
Okay, so you heard him say that this wasn't the point of the video, which is partly why I cut it out, but at any rate, let's go through the things that he listed. Nothing in nature is perfectly flat, and lakes are rugged. Well, I mean, kinda, I guess, if there, are waves and ripples, but even flat earthers themselves will say that water is the flattest thing that we can find that stretches out long enough to make such observations, because it always finds its level, and to some degree I agree with them. And in Soundly's videos and pictures, Lake Pontchartrain was pretty calm, as it usually is. Affected by temperature differences. I take it you're talking about refraction, because refraction is caused by temperature differences. And, well, refraction cannot cause what we see in Soundly's images. Apart from mirages, which this image obviously is not, refraction can indeed cause looming and sinking, which allows you to see farther and less far than you normally would, respectively. Except it wouldn't work that way if the Earth actually was flat. Here's what I mean. Here we have the pylons as they would appear on a flat and a globe Earth, zoomed in of course. So here's what would happen if we change the temperature gradients and refraction, since they go hand in hand. Notice how it only affects what you can see beyond the horizon if there actually is a genuine horizon. On the flat Earth, it would only move the image up or down because there's nothing in the way of distant things, even if the light is bending. Not only that, but there's not a huge difference in temperature around Lake Pontchartrain anyway. It's typically only a matter of a couple degrees between the water of the lake and the air above it, and that is not nearly enough to cause such a drastic distortion. Haze, dust, and what have you. Yeah, sure, haze, dust, and what have you could obscure things that are very far away, but it wouldn't cause anything to warp, and you can see that there isn't much haze or dust or what have you in these images, so try again. Everything else that he says is just very vague and unspecified. It's like he's trying to make a catch-all statement by pretty much just saying there's no way that we could see very far because there are just so many things. But no, given good conditions, we can see pretty well and pretty far. And in Soundly's images and videos, you don't see anything in the way, you don't see any mirage, you don't see anything that could warp the image, and you've stated nothing that could warp the image so drastically and in such a way. Now, there is a little bit of mirage in a lot of Soundly's images, but it's really only around here, right above the horizon. So if we just covered that little bit up, because that's all it is, then you still have a lot to explain.
This is something I pointed out in this video here a while ago, seeing imaginary curvature on flat Earth. We can see right here that these straight railings, when viewed from this low level across a flat surface, appear to curve down, okay, giving us exactly the same optical effect that we see with those pylons taken with a low perspective across the surface. If Soundly had raised up the camera half a meter or a meter, he would have seen, just as we see in this video, that the pylons become straight again. Okay, we get this higher perspective. We can see that these railings are in fact straight, okay, and obeying the laws of perspective. But when we are looking at it like this, from a very low level, we are getting a lot of distortion, this apparent curvature, exactly as we saw with the low perspective view of the pylons across Lake Pontchartrain.
Again, Nick, this was not taken close to the surface. It was taken way more than a meter up. It was on a causeway. So, I mean, according to you, this wouldn't apply. But here's what's going on here. In what you're showing, you've taken a video of some really, really hot roads and showing a large amount of obvious mirages that are common on hot roads. The massive amount of heat being released from the road to the much cooler air is what's causing all of this distortion and mirroring. But Lake Pontchartrain doesn't have that big of a temperature difference. It's usually only a couple degrees. The mirages that you saw in Nick's video simply aren't present in Soundly's images, except in relatively small parts close to the horizon, not nearly enough to distort the image this much. Again, if you cover this part up, you still have a lot of explaining to do.
Perspective is the imaginary curve, and that when we have this side-on view, we do not see the curvature that we see when we have a forward-looking view of whatever we imagine to be curvature.
Not if we're anywhere close to the surface. You know why? Because the Earth is so big, but we could easily take footage of the curvature of the Earth from a side view on, say, weather balloons, rockets, satellites. But if we do, it's all completely rejected by flat earthers with senseless conspiracy theories, and we don't really have very many other ways to show you. But if you were to say, show me the curve, we can show you this, but that's not good enough, because it needs to be that and this in order for you to accept Soundly's observations. That's why I said it's moving the goalposts.
Okay, it's not a trick, it's an observation of our reality, that if you are going to claim there is curvature in front of you, then you also have to be able to see that curvature in all directions, from the side as well. This is just logical if you're going to claim that we are on a sphere with a surface that curves away from us in all directions.
Yeah, if the curve was strong enough. but the Earth is so big and the curve so gradual that you can't really see it until you get into an airplane flight or something higher than that, which again, you'll just deny. The issue is really just trying to please you guys, which is kind of how it is when dealing with conspiracy theorists.
Okay, so we have this we thing, okay, demonstrating that you are part of a group of people, a cult or a culture.
I meant we as in anti-flat earthers, or to some degree, skeptical YouTubers. Maybe it was an odd choice of words, but to jump to the conclusion that I'm in a cult because of it, that's a bit of a stretch.
And just take a look at the books that this guy always displays behind him. Of course, we've got these pictures of space, etc. We've got the God Delusion, and basically things that are atheist publications.
What? The God Delusion is the only atheistic book that you can see. These two are Bibles. Here, I don't think I've ever showed you guys the books that I have on the shelf. Here they are. This one here is just a notebook. These are Jaina Sutras, really old Jain texts. This is Doctrine, What Christians Should Believe. It's a Christian book that I've had for a while. This is The Case for Christ, The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion by Jonathan Haidt. I don't know if you can see that. It's not from the perspective of any particular religion, as far as I can tell, so not an atheistic book there. This is Touching the Unseen World, which is like... It's a weird Christian book that's... It's interesting. I don't know. I haven't read it. Then we have the God Delusion. Then, right next to it, we have the complete Jewish Bible. It tends to be more faithful to the original Hebrew and other, original sources in the New Testament. From there, we have an NIV Bible. This one is the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, which is a Hindu text, if you didn't know. Then we have a religious coloring book. I just thought this was funny. We have a pamphlet that came with this Book of Mormon. Of course, that's Mormon. This is the Book of Dianetics, which was like the precursor to Scientology, and it's still used in Scientology, so there's that. This is What Does the Bible Really Teach? And this is Did Man Get Here by Evolution or by Creation? These are both Jehovah's Witness tracts. We have the Upanishads, that Hindu, the Bhagavad Gita, still Hindu, and we have the Dhammapada, which is Buddhist. It's a collection of, I believe, proverbs from Buddha. We have the Holy Quran in English. And then the only other atheistic books that I think I have, The Gospel of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, and the Counter-Creationism Handbook, which is interesting. And of course below that are a bunch of PS2 games, we have some PS3 games, a bunch of PC games, and a few Sega Genesis games that are below the screen. There are more books over there that are mostly psychology books. I have another Quran, another Bible, nothing atheistic. But yeah, those aren't all atheist books.
Atheism goes along with the globe Earth belief because it is some kind of perceived proof that this Earth was created by some cosmic accident, no particular reason, and we have these supporters of people like Richard Dawkins, who wants to claim that evolution happened with no intelligence behind it. The intelligence came afterwards, and it's just one of these things that goes along with the expanding universe, Big Bang, Ball Earth belief.
No, not necessarily, except those that are skeptical, genuinely think critically, do tend to hold those beliefs, because they're reasonable. Of course, Nick here put those ideas in a very ludicrous and deceitful way, whereas our genuine, actual ideas don't resemble what he just said at all. They're far more reasonable, far more nuanced, I guess, and there's tons of evidence for it, but I don't have time to go into that right now. Maybe check out some of my other videos on such topics. Anyhow, that's pretty much it for that video. Let's go to Jamie and see what he says that Nick didn't say.
So how is it possible that you can see Mount Canigou from over 160 miles away?
He didn't provide a citation, but I believe that this came from this video, which also did not cite the original video, but I believe I found it here, and if you look in the description, it links to this website that states that it's only seen every so often during favorable weather conditions, and that's because it's caused by atmospheric refraction. I'm not jumping to conclusions here, it's genuinely stated on this website in French. And the fact that this is not seen the majority of the time disproves your point entirely.
How is it possible to see, the Isle of Man from Blackpool 65 miles away if somehow there's a curve that's supposed to be blocking it?
Again, I had to track down the source myself, which was probably this video, which shows that you can only see the tops of wind turbines, which, again, disproves your point because you can't see the base of the wind turbines, or the island around it, or, the ground, or the buildings, or the streets, or anything. You can only see the top of the tallest things, and the rest is below the horizon, as if there was some sort of curve. Of course, this could be affected by looming, but I don't think that's what's going on here. I don't think that these wind turbines are actually on the Isle of Man in the first place, because I don't think that there are any wind farms on the Isle of Man. But if you were to look in a more northern direction, then there is a wind farm there that is close enough to be able to see. So, fancy that.
I understand why you would think it's curve, but that's all based on a presupposition of the globe.
No, it's not. I've been looking into flat Earth and anti-flat Earth arguments for a while now, and I genuinely, reasonably came to the conclusion that the Earth is a globe. Another thing that I was attacked for a lot in the comments was my appearance, my haircut especially. A lot of people say that I look homosexual, transsexual, transgender, androgynous, emo, etc., except, in more colorful language.
And definitely don't trust rat-faced emo-looking kids.
And quite frankly, I don't really care. I mean, if anything, it makes me feel better because, I feel comfortable with the way I look, or the way I did look. And to see other people really trying to bring me down, really trying to get under my skin, really trying to insult me, it makes me feel like they're really unhappy people, and I'm over here happy with the way that I look. So whenever I see somebody really trying to insult me like that, it really just makes me think that, wow, I'm a much happier person than they are. Yeah, I'm really sad to see my hair go, but after trying to cut it myself, that was a bad idea. Maybe I'll grow it out into another hairstyle that everybody will hate. I don't know. We'll see where it takes me. But if you insult me, I really don't care, but I will remove the comments because I don't want my comment section to be insults towards me or anybody I'm responding to. So, I can't stop the trolls, but I mean, come on guys, it's ridiculous. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Goodbye.